Hello guys, and welcome back to UKTORNADOES.co.uk. Now today we're going to be discussing the Birmingham 2005 tornado in more detail. So let's get into it. On the 28th of July 2005, a tornadic storm formed on a warm front that rapidly lifted to the north. Arrows indicate wind direction. Infrared satellite imagery at 1400 UTC showing the development of thunderstorms over central England. Sounding of temperature, dew point and wind at 1200 UTC at Nottingham, about 70 km northeast of Birmingham, shows a sample of the environment north of the surface warm front. Upper air surrounding of the temperature, dew point and wind were retrieved and studied for this event. The closest sounding stations to Birmingham were Nottingham, 70 km northeast, and Larkhill, 140 km to the south. The 1200 sounding at Nottingham on the 28th of July 2005 showed a very moist environment, typical for being north of a warm front. Surface winds were from the northeast but switched quickly to the south just above the ground, then increasing to 50 knots at 500 millibars. As expected, Cape values were low for a surrounding early in the day, but with 20 degrees forecast temperatures, Cape values would have increased to about 200 joules per kilogram in the warm sector. The Larkhill 1200 UTC sounding also showed a relatively moist environment in the warm sector. Winds were undirectional aloft, but there was a significant speed share between the surface and 700 millibars, where winds increased from 15 to 50 knots. Analysis of radar activity at 1430 UTC showed a line of thunderstorms extended across the Midlands region in the centre of England. A temp storm was approaching Birmingham at this time. Other storms developed farther to the southeast, and at least one of them became tornadic as it crossed the warm front at Peterborough, about 120 km east of Birmingham. 15 minutes later, the tornado would touch down.
Scale of the devastation seen from the air. Roofs ripped off, bedrooms open to the sky. On the ground, the cars hurled across streets, shattered tiles, glass, bricks. A Midlands Today viewer's CCTV showed just one of those impacts. One resident was on holiday and found the remains of his house on the front pages.
I'm glad that my children and my wife and myself wasn't in the house, because if it'd been a rainy day, they'd have been playing in the bedroom. In 20 seconds, I wouldn't have been able to get over there.
One of his neighbours was in his bedroom at the time.
Looked up into the attic and the roof's just peeled off, just ripped off daylight. I just basically felt all the air being sucked out of the house and just running past me and just going up. And then all of a sudden all the soot come down the chimney and there was flames coming out the fire and that.
Roads suddenly became woodlands themselves. Chainsaws had been in huge demand.
I saw the tree heading towards me, and basically it took out the telephone wire that was connected to there.
Open parks were seemingly particularly vulnerable. 116 children launching a play scheme were protected by their quick-thinking staff.
Staff, we literally enclosed them to try and form a critical mass in a round, and we sort of battened the younger ones down. All the staff sort of linked arms and hands to try and flatten them over.
Thousands of people are now counting the cost of the twister. The City Council says it's working flat out to help. A help centre's been set up in Small Heath.
This is a roof tile. It's been carried 50 yards. It is heavy, but it's the force of the wind that picked it up and flung it 50 yards. Now these people have got a real job to get their lives back to normal.
In King's Heath, CCTV showed the horror. Watch the two in bright hooded tops as a tree falls on them. The cameras also filmed the emergency services who arrived to help. There today, the Bishop for Birmingham visited the parish church, which, despite roof damage, will be open for services on Sunday.
We're very grateful that in the hall, had it hit there too, there were 50 children having a club in there. That would have been terrible. So I'm at least glad that the children were saved. This can be repaired, but lives, once destroyed, are not. So from that point of view, just very grateful, really.
What it's like to be at the centre of a tornado. The cameraman taking these pictures was out filming a community project in the park when he suddenly found himself grappling with the elements. People on the ground clinging on. The kids from the project huddled together as the winds raged past.
The aftermath of this tornado was just insane. It was on the ground for 8 minutes and reached over 130 miles an hour, to be exact 137. It reached those speeds at Birchwood Road, Balsall, Heath. It injured 19 people and costed £40 million in damage, which in today's money is 64 million. It was given an F2 rating, also known as a T4 rating on the Torro scale. In some videos and pictures it looked like a wedge tornado. I couldn't find enough information to confirm it was a wedge, but it was seen as a stovepipe or a little rope. Most buildings damaged by the tornado had load-bearing brick masonry walls. Walls were double width in cross-section, with every sixth brick course turned perpendicular to the wall face in order to attach the withes to each other. Gable ends also were constructed with double width brick masonry. In essence, gable ends were freestanding and had little resistance to lateral wind forces. As a result, the gable ends were susceptible to toppling in high winds, leading to a collapse of the roof. Fortunately, such gable end failures were relatively rare, in part to the heavy weight of the slate and tile roofs that kept gable ends intact. But failing masonry was quite hazardous, crushing a number of cars. Some brick masonry chimneys fell into buildings, penetrated wood floors and ended up on the first stories. What I found interesting about the satellite radars, that the ITV weather satellite radar picked up the tornado, the little rotation of it. To finish up this video, we're going to go over the summary of this tornado. This was the costliest and one of the strongest tornadoes in UK history, with its 11-kilometre path and its extremely strong winds. The maximum 3-second wind speeds were noted and estimated at between 50 and 60 milliseconds. A very concerning thing about this tornado was 5-kilogram roof tiles were picked up and thrown. This would make people rethink on how roofing was made. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out UKTORNADOES.co.uk, and we'll see you guys in the next tornadic video.